Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to put together and show you the world's smallest 3x3 Rubik's Cube. 57 millimeters. For decades, this has been the standard size of a normal 3x3 Rubik's Cube. Now you might come across one that's 55 or 56 millimeters, but when you think of a normal size cube, this is more or less what you're thinking of. Now I recently picked up this little cube, the GAN 330. It's a mini keychain 3x3 coming in at just 30 millimeters, which is about half the size of a normal size cube. And being from GAN, it might just be the smallest Rubik's Cube that you could legitimately speed solve on. I mean, this thing turns amazingly. Look at that corner cutting. But let's say speed cubing isn't your concern. All you want is the smallest 3x3 that you can buy off the shelf. In that case, the Maru Nano Cube might be your best option. At just 15 millimeters, it is the smallest mass-produced 3x3, coming in at just half the edge length of the GAN 330. It is a DIY cube, so you do have to assemble and sticker it yourself, but it really is pretty easy. Anyone can do it, and it makes for a nice, fun little puzzle. But let's say 15 millimeters just isn't small enough. You already have a cube that's literally smaller than a single cubie of a normal size 3x3, but why not go smaller? If this cube is 57 millimeters, then why not go down to just 5.7 millimeters at 1/10 the size? I think you know where I'm going with this. Today we're going to be unboxing and attempting to assemble the world's smallest 3x3 that I could possibly buy at just 5.7 millimeters. This is a 3D printed puzzle that has to be custom ordered according to a design by the guy who made it, which is why this box is from Shapeways. Now as I open this up here and get it out of the box, I do have to clarify that this is technically not the world's smallest Rubik's Cube. That one was actually made by Tony Fisher by taking a cube similar to this and sanding it down a little bit on all sides to 5.6 millimeters. But at just 0.1 millimeters off, this one is pretty close. Plus it's definitely the smallest that I could get my hands on. Now you may be thinking, cool, you pay 50 bucks, you get a little box in the mail that has in it the pieces of the world's smallest Rubik's Cube, and you put it together. Well, not exactly. In fact, that last step there is where things kind of start to fall apart, because from what I've heard, assembling this cube is a bit of a nightmare. In fact, it actually comes with over double the number of pieces that you need to make a single cube, and that's because they're expecting more than half of the little tiny pieces to break along the way. So here is, like I said, more than the number of pieces you actually need to make this cube, and here is the 15 millimeter Maru Nano Cube for scale. These pieces are absolutely tiny. Let's zoom in a little bit. Alright, this is about the closest my camera can possibly focus. That may look like a normal size Rubik's Cube there, but it is in fact still just the Nano Cube. In fact, a normal size Rubik's Cube in this angle wouldn't even fit in the frame. It looks something like that. Here is the smallest US coin, a dime for comparison, and you can see these pieces are just absolutely tiny. Now in terms of the actual pieces, it looks like right here we have the little cores, just little ball-shaped things like this. Right here we have all of the edges and centers. I think there's 4 edges and 4 centers in each set. And right here, I think these are all corners. And this is just a random piece of plastic that's probably there by mistake. But yeah, you can see just how incredibly detailed and tiny these pieces are. Like we have details down to probably less than 1/10 of a millimeter on these things. This is just incredible. But yeah, I'm definitely not gonna be able to assemble this while talking because I need 100% attention to not break half of these pieces. But wow, I am just endlessly impressed that they even had the technology to print stuff this small and detailed, although it's probably on a 3D printer that costs millions of dollars. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the assembly. This is gonna be one big pain. Oh my gosh, that was more of a nightmare than I ever could have expected. I've done a lot of crazy things in the history of this channel, but assembling this little cube here has got to be one of the most difficult. Let me just try to explain the scale of how difficult that was. The first step was to take a knife like this and cut all the little pieces apart, and then remove all the extra bits of connecting plastic that held them together while they were 3D printed. It seemed pretty tedious in the moment, but compared to what was to come, it really was pretty easy. The next step was assembling the core by inserting each centerpiece into the tiny holes of the ball core itself. This doesn't sound very difficult, but in reality, the slight imperfections of the 3D printing meant that you also had to use the knife to shave down little bits of plastic here and there so that the centerpieces would just barely be able to fit into the holes without being able to fall out. Next, I began my first attempt at assembly, which I spent about 3 hours on. The most I ever got was 2 corner sections, so about 7 pieces onto the core, before giving up, realizing that the core was just way too tight and pieces started breaking, so I figured I'd just cut that core in half and retrieve all the pieces and then try again with the second core that I had. But then with everything I had learned from that first attempt, I completely restarted. I took a brand new set of centerpieces and shaved down more plastic in a different area so that they would end up being a little bit looser in the core, and that allowed me just enough looseness to be able to get all these pieces in, and about 2 hours later, I got it. Notice that I haven't even realigned the layer since getting that last edge piece in, because I am just so terrified of things breaking. But to give you a scale of how close I was to not finishing this and completely giving up on this video, these are all the pieces that I broke along the way. I ended up having plenty of extra corner and center pieces, but like I said, I was on my second and last ball core, and I actually completely ran out of extra edges. The 12 of them that are in this cube are the only 12 that I have left. So yeah, after how bad the first attempt went, I was not expecting that second attempt to work at all. Anyway, let's go ahead and do our first partial turn on this cube. Let's just very carefully move this into place, hoping things don't break. And we got most of the way there. And there we go. The cube is assembled and cubic for the very first time. I'm not going to do any other turns, at least until I have everything all stickered up, just because I don't want to risk it, but we can go ahead and do a quick size comparison again. There is a dime, there is the nano cube, and here is a normal size cube. You can see just how absolutely tiny this thing is. It's actually pretty close to the size of just one cubie of the nano cube. Anyway, it's now time to sticker this cube up, which is about as much of a pain as it sounds. The first step though is to paint this cube black, which as you can see, we're actually going to be doing with a Sharpie. I got this idea from RedKB, who actually inspired this entire video. I saw his video about this cube many years ago, and I knew I had to do it ever since. And here we go. Here is the finished product. That took well over an hour, which means it's probably the longest I've ever spent stickering a single 3x3, and at the same time, it's probably also the worst stickering job I've ever done. But still, considering the constraints, I think we did a pretty good job. Keep in mind that a lot of people struggle to sticker a normal size 3x3, and that looks something like this. I think a single sticker on here has more area than all the stickers on this one combined. And while we're talking about size, like I said earlier, this one is 57 millimeters, whereas this one is just 5.7, 1/10 the edge length. That means that you can fit 1,000 of these inside the volume of this one. So the next time you're holding a normal size Rubik's Cube, just remember that you could fit more of these tiny 3x3s in that space than the number of 3x3s you've probably seen in your entire life. Now let me just say this explicitly in case I haven't been clear enough. Do not buy one of these Rubik's Cubes unless you just have money and a lot of time to burn. And if you do, I would highly recommend ordering 2 full sets of the pieces because you will break that many pieces along the way. It was an endlessly frustrating process and I almost did not make it. I would not recommend this to anyone. If all you want is a mini Rubik's Cube, just buy the Maru Nano Cube. It's over 5 times cheaper and about 100 times easier to build. Anyway, I can't end off the video without at least doing a few turns, so as much as I hate to do it, I'm going to attempt a checkerboard pattern. It's either going to be successful and I'm going to leave it like that forever, or it's going to fall apart and I'm going to leave it like that forever. So without further ado, here we go. This is absolutely terrifying, but I'm going to begin a turn, and here we go. Okay, we got one turn. Okay, it's going pretty smoothly. Actually, it's going too smoothly. I think something might be broken, but let's just go on and try the other side before everything falls apart. Let's see if we can get at least another double turn in. Here we go. This is so terrifying. So many hours of work. I heard a snap, and I think it is done. Yep, there goes some pieces, and there we go. That is the end of this video. That is the world's smallest Rubik's Cube that can in fact turn. As you saw, I just did 2 turns before it fell apart. But yeah, we just had catastrophic failure. It looks like 3 center pieces all broke at the same time. So yeah, this is so sad, but there we go. That's what you get for spending $50 and like 12 hours on a cube that's just 5.7 millimeters. So yeah, pretty tragic ending. This is completely unfixable, but I'll see if I can at least glue the pieces together to get at least the semblance of a cube. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing else I can do. I'll see you guys next time.